Okay, so we're moving on to the second page now. So remember, between these two problems and the problems at the bottom of the page, so if we go down here, we're looking at these ones here, you can use any method that you choose. And remember what I said, if you decide that you want to use quadratic formula for every single problem, go right ahead. Okay, it's your choice at this point. Okay? All right, so let's talk about what's the best choice. Now, quadratic formula will work for everyone, but sometimes there's a more obvious and easier way. Now, if I'm looking at this first one, I got two terms, and I'm looking at 5, I'm looking at 25, and they have something in common, a common factor, right? So why not take the GCF? So in this case, I'm going to do GCF here. Okay? So to do GCF, move this over a little bit. Okay, I'm going to find the biggest number I can divide into these two, which is 5. But then also, they share an x in common, so I'm going to divide x. Okay, so remember that goes to the front of parentheses. And now I'm going to divide 5x over x. 5 divided by 5, 1. If I have 2x's here, 1 here, that means I have 1 left over. And I don't need a 1, okay, in front of the x. And then bring down the plus. 25 over 5. 5. If I've got 1x here, they cancel each other out. Okay? It's only if I have one more on the top or more on the top that I'll have some left over. Okay? So now I have this. So now I can go straight to my answer. And remember, I'm trying to figure out what number do I plug in here to make this equal 0. In other words, 5 times what number equals 0? And that's 0, because 5 times 0 is 0. Then I go to the second part of the factor, and I say, well, what number plus 5 equals 0? And that's negative 5. So that was a lot quicker than doing quadratic formula, but quadratic formula will work. The way you do that is, I'm not going to go through all the steps. Look back at page 1 if you want to see the steps for this on doing quadratic formula, as I need to find the a, b, and c. The number that is next to x squared is our a. The number that's next to x is our b. 25. The number that has no x is your c. But if you notice, there's no number after 25x. So then that means it's a missing, it's 0. And so you would use these numbers to plug them in. Okay? Okay, so let's go over to the other side. So now, I've got 3 terms this time, okay, but I still have 2 x's here. Right away, I'm thinking, oh, I could use the box. So I'm going to set up my box. Okay. First number goes in the first box. Last number goes in the last box. Okay. And I need 2 numbers again. First I multiply these two. So 9 times x squared. 2 numbers, and let me say again, 2 numbers multiply to 9x squared, but then also add up to 6x, the middle number. And right away I can see that's 3 times 3. Okay? Because if I multiply 3 times 3, I get 9. But if I add 3 plus 3, I get 6. So 3x, 3x. Now this is a lot. These are usually easier if it's just x squared here, because you figure out what number what 2 letters or variables do I multiply to get x squared? It's just x times x. Okay. The first problem that we did in number 1 required a little bit more thinking, because I was like, I had 3x times x, so I had to figure out where the 3 went. But here, if it's just x squared, it's just x times x. Now x times what number is 3x? 3. X times what number is 3x? It's the same thing, 3. Okay, so now my factors are going to be x plus 3 times x plus 3. And if you notice, these factors are the exact same. So the number I derive from that is going to be the same. So I'm going to get what number plus 3 is 0? Negative 3. And if I do it here, I also get the same answer. So I only need to write it once. You don't need to write the same number twice. Okay, so here's a case where you have only one real solution. Okay, so continuing on with page 2, all right, we're looking at number 6 and number 7. Now, with number 6, there's a shortcut, but I'm not going to do shortcuts. I'm not all about shortcuts, especially when you're just learning something for the first time. Maybe you're trying to catch up on studying right now, watching this video, right? So what did I say you can solve this problem with, if it's anything? Because right now, I'm thinking GCF, right? Two numbers. The only problem is that 49 doesn't have an x. Okay, so I can't just take out any GCF there, because there's no common factor between 4 and 49. Box isn't going to work because I don't have 3 terms. Okay, so I'm going to do quadratic formula. Okay, but the problem is I need an A, I need a B, and I need a C. I need 3 terms, 3 numbers, 3 coefficients, but I've only got 2. So that means 1 is missing. 1 is 0. Well, remember, the number next to x squared is your A, so 4. The number that's next to x is your B, but there is no number next to x, or just x, so that means it's 0. So 4x, the middle number is missing, so basically it's 0x, and then minus 49. Okay, so that way we know, oh, B is 0, and then the last number, negative 49, is our C. So I'm going to go ahead and plug that in, and just look up the formula, or go back to page 1 and see what the formula is, or just look in your notes. Negative 1 times B, so 0, plus and minus, and if you're noticing already, a bunch of things are going to cancel out because we're multiplying 0 here, okay, or adding 0. Okay, so 0 squared, all right, minus 4 times our A, which is 4, okay, times our C, which is negative 49, okay, over 2 times our A, which is 4. Okay, let's go ahead and simplify. Negative 1 times 0, that cancels out. Okay, so then we have plus and minus. Still need the plus and minus. Square root. Well, 0 squared, that cancels out. So all we have here on the top is negative 4 times negative 49. Okay, so first, let's do negative 4 times 4. Oops. It's negative 16. And then times negative 49. Okay. All over 2 times 4, which is 8. So now we need to figure out what is 16 times 49. Okay, so let's do that real quick up here. 49 times 16, 9 times 6, 4, 3 times that, it's 24 plus 5, 294, 1 times 49, which is 49. Let's add it up, get 4, over 9 plus 8, 9 plus 9 is 18, carry the 1, 784. Okay, so plus and minus the square root of 784. Okay, over 8. Okay, so here we need to find out the square root. So square root of 784, I'm going to have to punch out my calculator, and let me think for a second. And actually, let me show you a little shortcut. I noticed that there's 2 perfect squares here, 16 and 49. So here's a cool thing about radicals, is that I can take the square root of that number, and the square root of that number, okay, and then just multiply them, and that's your answer. So square root of 16 is 4. The square root of 49 is 7. And so 4 times 7 is 28. Just a little shortcut. Oops, sorry, that's an 8. All right. So now, from that, I got to simplify. I got to reduce. So what's the biggest number I can divide into 28 and 8? Okay, 4 goes in, 2 goes in, but also 4 does. Okay, so let's try 4. So I'll try to divide 4. Divide 4. I get 7 over 2. Okay, but here's the thing. I have plus and I have minus. So what that means is I'm going to have 2 solutions. One is going to be positive 7 over 2. The other will be negative 7 over 2. And there's your answer. Okay? All right, so now the second one. All right, number 7. Now, kind of looking at it, it's not equal to 0. All these problems so far have been equal to 0. Let's make it equal to 0. I got to move the 1 over here. Remember, if you move it, just change the sign. So now it'll become negative 1. So I can do a couple things here. I got 3 terms, so I'm thinking box, or X and box, whichever one you want to do. So I can try that and we'll see if it works. So first term here. And of course you could do quadratic formula here. Your A is going to be 2. Your B is going to be 1. Okay, and your C is going to be -1. And just plug it in like we did before. Okay, and again, once you get to this step, you can just plug all that in the calculator and find out your answer there. Okay, just remember you're going to have to do one with plus and the other with negative. Okay, all right, so now -1, the last number goes here. You multiply these two, that gives you -2x squared. Two numbers multiply to -2x squared, but then add up to, remember this is a 1, the middle number. All right, so the other numbers that multiply to 2 is 2 and 1. 2x, 1x. Okay, and I want it to be +1, so I could actually subtract 2 minus 1. 2 minus 1 gives us 1x. Okay, so 2x, 1x. Okay, now I'm going to do GCF. GCF of the column and the row. So GCF of 2x and 2x, or GCF of 2 and 2, the biggest number you can divide is 2. That's the common factor. And they both have x, so 2x. So that's where the 2x goes. And the common factor between 2 and -1, well, there is none, or except for 1. So they both have x. Boom, there goes the x. Okay? X times what number gives us -1? -1x. Oh, sorry, -1 times x gives us -1x. 2 times 1 gives us 2x. So now 2x minus 1 and x plus 1. All right, so now, again, remember the shortcut. Cover this number up. X minus 1, the number is 1, because 1 minus 1 is 0. But then if there's a number there, put it over 2. Okay? Now, the second one, what number plus 1 gives us 0? -1. And there you go. Again, you could also use this.